Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace. What's up everyone? Lance Hedrick here today, and we are going back to my roots with a latte art video. Now, it has been over a year since I have made any videos on latte art, and if you've been following me for a while, you know that that is kind of what I started my channel with, was milk steaming tutorials and latte art tutorials, and it's been a while since I've done any. And over this past year, I've been seeing in forums and different places loads and loads of questions on just different basics. And so I thought it was time to revisit some of the basics, some of the most important mistakes I'm seeing a lot of you all make, things that you're doing wrong, things that need to be corrected and worked on before you can really advance. Now, if you feel confident in your latte art, I still highly suggest you watching this video because a lot of this stuff you may still be struggling with. Now, these are big time important tips for you all to kind of adhere to in order to progress. So the way this video will be structured is I'm going to go over 5 big mistakes or issues I see people making. I'm going to give examples of the issues so that you can maybe, see them and understand and empathize with them. Oh, that's what I'm doing. And then I'll show you how to correct it. So we're going to go through each one methodically and we're going to tear them apart so that you can better understand how to master these basics so you can progress with your own latte art. Whether you're a barista in a shop trying to kind of move up or to showcase your passion, if it's something that you have fun doing on shift, or if you're a home barista that just wants to, have fun in this hobby where you're drinking a cappuccino or a latte each day and you want to put some fun designs on them. So because this is a passion that I share with you all, let's go ahead and start working on getting these things ironed out. Now, whenever you have a passion like this, a lot of us love to document them, whether that's on your Instagram or that's on, sending pictures to your friend group or your family or giving it to a customer and getting excited when they're excited. But there are other ways to showcase your passions. And that brings me to the sponsor of today's video, which is Squarespace. It's an all-in-one domain for entrepreneurs to put out what they kind of want to the world. They have a really intuitive shopping system. You can put a shop on there so that people can buy your stuff, which is really great for entrepreneurs because that's how you make money. It's also just got the most beautiful domains that are pre-built so that schmucks like me can get on there and just click edit and then click photo and then click add and then it's on there. If you have a cool creative passion, whether that is beekeeping or whether that is making candles out of bee wax, if you want to be creative, you can be that on Squarespace. Go ahead, get your website started, and when you're ready to launch, use the code and you'll get 10% off your purchase of a domain name or whatever you want. All you gotta do is you're gonna use that link. It's www.squarespace.com/Lance Hedrick. We got it? You're ready to entrepreneur the crap out of stuff. Awesome, so now that we have Squarespace in our domain, we're ready to get some latte art going. The first one we're gonna talk about is milk texture. I often see people steam too thick or chunky. I often see people steam too thin. And those are both wrong. You have to steam it perfectly. And if you are having issues steaming, I'm gonna go ahead and link my milk steaming tutorial there. Spout proximity. Now that's referring to the spout of your milk pitcher and how close it is to the level of the liquid. I see people pouring from too high, from too close. Those are both wrong. We got to get the proper spout proximity because that is going to dictate the foam coming out, cascading joyfully like ice skating, like figure 8 on Schoolhouse Rock. If you get that deep reference, then you're a real one. The third thing we're going to go over is pour speed, flow rate of the milk coming out of your pitcher, whether it's too fast or too slow when you're doing the beginning part of it, laying your base. Going too slow, too fast, those are no-nos. We need that nice happy middle, okay? We're gonna shun this side, and we're gonna walk the straight and narrow. The fourth thing we're gonna be looking at is trying too much. I see you out there and you're like, oh, I made milk foam show up on top. Now I'm ready to do 1, 2, 5, 10, 47, 6. We're gonna calm you down. We're gonna get you going on the right path so we don't have weird looking onions or phallic objects in our coffees because neither of those are fun times. You don't wanna send that to, mom. Do you? No, you don't. And finally, we're gonna talk about push rotation. Now, when I talk about rotation, I'm talking about we're on a set axis and we're rotating the cup. Rotation versus pushing with the pitcher. So those are the 5 things we're gonna go over. So without much further ado, you can use time cues below, but let's go ahead and hop into the very first one. So the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to talk about your milk texture. Now I know a lot of you are going to want to skip this, but do not skip. Trust me. I'm going to show you what it looks like. The majority of you are doing is doing thick chunky milk, and we don't want the chunk. What we want is the silky milky. I hear your excuses. My machine, blah, blah, blah. I'm here on a Rebel Barista Express. I'm steaming without looking, all good. But what I see a lot of you do is you are stretching way too aggressively. You hear that? You hear that? I'm stretching way too aggressively. And I'm making my milk a little chunky, all right? You don't want to steam this aggressively. You don't want to add that much air into your milk as soon as possible. You need to stretch less aggressively, okay? The thicker it is, I know you might be like, well, I really want the foam. Well, latte art may not be for you, and that's absolutely valid, okay? Valid, right? But what we don't want to do is just crush that milk. We're not here ripping phone books, all right? We got some bubbly bubs. Here is milk that is too thick. Now, you may be looking at it, and you're like, oh my goodness, no, that looks good, Lance. That looks tasty. I like that thickness. That's good. But watch what happens when we have this thick milk. It looks like it's fine. Now what I need you to notice is you see on the side when I swirl, it looks like thick cream. We don't want that. We want to be able to see the side of the pitcher. So if you're swirling and you can't see the side of the pitcher through the milk, you're too thick, baby. All right, so here we go, right here. Look at that. See how it just kind of bubbles up like so? And then we start pouring. Look at this. Now we're going to look at a few things from this pour. As you can see, the milk did not integrate well with the crema. You see how it's beiging out? It's kind of caramelly color here. It's not a nice dark ring. Well, it's because the foam was so thick when it was integrating with the crema, it kind of just sits on top and goes below because how thick boy we have, all right? Now you may be like, wow, that still has a nice shape about it. Yeah, well, it was so thick that if I were to do a pull through, that milk's so thick, it's just going to do a little sludge trail at the end. And we don't want a sludge trail. We don't want a slug just kind of going through our coffee. I mean, look how high up I can pour this. This is like old school. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Now I know. Some of you are like, that's goals, Lance. That's the foam I want. Well, do it. But get off this video because latte art ain't for you. We want microfoam that's silky, milky, velvety, smooth, yummy yums. If you want marshmallow cream, well, do what I just did. That is like voluptuous, to be honest. But like, I don't even really get coffee in that. So if you're sitting here and you're trying to rip while you're doing anything and you're not really seeing any type of definition or any type of movements, well, guess what? You're a little too thickly thick. X that out. Let's look at what too thin looks like. Now, I know a lot of you are gonna see that and you're gonna overcorrect. You're gonna start steaming. You're gonna say, okay, we don't wanna be ripping phone books. We're not WWE. We're gonna do this. Okay, I think we're good. We're good, okay. We'll be done stretching now, okay? And we're just gonna let it swirl. We're gonna let it just swirl. But what's gonna start happening is your machine's gonna get a little ticked at you, all right? The acoustics in your pitcher are not gonna be on your side. What's gonna happen is the noise from that steam wand into the milk will not be buffered by foam because you haven't been creating enough. It's gonna be like, as Jim Carrey would do it in Dumb and Dumber. I forgot how long this machine takes to steam its milk. Yucky. Not for me, please. All right. So here we are, boom, we take that off. So then we have milk that is too thin, just like here, right here. So you're gonna see what's gonna happen when we start pouring. It just wants to kind of go everywhere. See that? So when you start pouring, it just wants to kind of blob out all over the place. It doesn't want to really hold its position, which is not ideal. You want it to have enough viscosity so that when it mixes with the crema, it can hold the shape, it can hold the design. All right, now there's some of you that go even thinner than this, and no foam wants to even surface at all. And we need to be right in that center spot. And again, if you need to watch a milk steaming video, I highly recommend. But here's perfection. Just look at that. We have shiny, shiny milk. The integration is just bon appetito. It's like, bam, Emerald would say. And I mean, look, it cascaded out so swiftly and beautifully onto the surface of that crema. It's so shiny. I could probably do my makeup looking in that mirror, all right? Now, I know that you probably can't too. You may want to look away because the reflection may be too bright for your eyes. But this is what we want to get at, that perfect milk texture, which needs to be like wet paint. So when you're swirling on the sides, you can just see the walls of the pitcher beside it. You don't want to go too aggressively on the integration of air at the beginning of your steaming. Instead, what you want to do is you want to be very lightly, gently kissing it, okay? Sha-la-la-la-la-la, my, oh my, the milk too shy. You wanna kiss the milk, whoa, whoa. Now, wow, oh wow, this next one I see so many of you do, even baristas who have been around the block a while. Spout proximity. You either go too high or too low. So I'm gonna show what that means. When you're too high, you're not gonna get that foam to cascade out really nicely on top. This is what it's gonna look like. You're like, oh yeah, I've got a nice base going on. Now I'm gonna stop and look, I'm gonna start pouring. Oh, I'm trying to pour, I'm trying to pour, I'm trying to pour. Now the shape of this is really nice. It's because it's hard for me to make something bad. But as you can see, there's not really nice contrast. When you're that high, the foam wants to dip under the layer because gravity, all right? Sir Isaac Newton apple hitting his head all day and it's gonna dip down and you're not gonna get that foam to cascade nicely on top. Now it's like synchronized swimmers. When they're diving into the pool, they're going down so nicely and it's like you don't even see a splash. We're doing a similar thing here, but there's a little cream that floats on the top, right? So when you dive in, you wanna dive in at an angle that is very gentle, very soft, and very close to that surface, all right? The higher you go, the more gravity is gonna affect it and pull the foam down beneath. So like when I'm pouring right here, we're like sinking stuff, right? The higher you pour, the more gravity affects it, the more it's gonna sink it down below. If you try to do your pour from up above and you're rippling or doing whatever you want, it's just gonna kind of sink and some's gonna stay up and some's gonna kind of integrate and make that beige color that is ugly. We don't want U-G-L-Y. You ain't got no alibi, you ugly. What? You ugly. We don't want ugly. We want purty, all right? So don't pour from too high. Get that junk close, tilt that cup, get the pitcher as close to that lip as possible, and go. There is such a thing as too deep, and I'm gonna show you what that looks like.
Uncle Lance, I got that silky milky. I know not to pour too high, I'm not a dweeb.
And then you go and you do this. You go bada bing, bada boom, bada bing, bada boom, bada bing, bada boom. And you're like, look how close I get, Dad. Oh my gird. When you get too close, what's gonna happen is that foam's gonna wanna come out more quickly and more aggressively, and it's gonna shoot to the back of the cup. If you go too deep, you're gonna Belgian dip your pitcher and you're gonna get this bitter crema on there. We don't want the deep double dip. We want a nice, just calm dip, just like so, just like this pour we're about to do. Now watch it, put on some ASMR, and just understand. We just go lightly to that lip. We're gonna get it right here, and then we're just gonna dance with the cup. Just dance with it, okay? Now I know you're going,
Lance, my milk, fuego. My spout proximity, it's like the delicacy of an ice skater on an ice rink.
what you're probably doing is you're varying your pour rate. You're either going too fast or too slow. And you don't want that flow rate coming out fast as a Formula One driver. So you've got the milk, you've got the crema, you've got this down, but look, you're taking the crema and you're saying, I don't respect you, crema. I don't like good contrast. I don't like pretty latte art. Instead, what I wanna do is I wanna ruin your dreams. I wanna come in, I wanna rip it to shreds. And so when you pour really quickly, the foam from the milk's going in there and it's going, no, out of the way, out of the way, out of the way, and it marbleizes it. When you pour too quickly, you're gonna get these kind of striations, this beiginess, and yada, yada, yada. You have blowouts because that base isn't thick enough, it's not viscous enough to hold that design. The foam's gonna be racing out and it's gonna wanna kind of go everywhere. We need to slow it down, but don't go too slow like what I'm about to show you. Now listen, trust me, I understand how it can get a little intimidating when you're starting to pour and you're like, oh, I need to go, I need to board this because the longer you wait, your milk's gonna congeal. So I understand that imperative, the impetus to pour quickly, but then you have what just happened. And so then you're gonna be like, okay, that was too quick. And then you go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Don't go to the opposite end of the spectrum, because when you do that, what's gonna happen is the thin milk is gonna come out and that foam's gonna wanna stick to the milk pitcher. So the thin milk's gonna come out when you're laying your base, when you're trying to raise the viscosity of that espresso. Thin milk's gonna come out, so then it can't really hold the foam when it does come out, and it's gonna blob out, even with perfectly textured milk, which you know I just made right now. The milk texture on this is perfection, all right? It's so good. You're gonna look at it and you're going like, oh my goodness, is that milk or is that wet paint? And the answer is, I don't know. Slow, we don't wanna mess all that up. And as you see, that crema is just getting really stiff. So then when we start our pour, look at that. Look at that. Look at this. What you can see is the crema was really stiff because we were pouring so slowly. You gotta pour a little more quickly so the foam of the milk mixes and integrates with the foam of the espresso. You don't wanna pour too quickly to marbleize it because we're not eating meat here. You don't want to pour it too slowly to where the crema is bundled up and is like, you're not gonna break me up, doo-dah. We're gonna come in, we're gonna wreck it without marbleizing it. When you go too slow, that's what happens, and the foam's gonna stick in your pitcher. Now, like I said, this is the same textured milk I've been doing, but it looks like I steamed too thick because that blob came out at the end. Well, it's because we had a ton of foam left in that pitcher, and we didn't have anything to hold the design in place because it was just like crema and thin milk. And that crema is now so tightly bonded together, it doesn't want to homogenize with the milk now. Instead, we want, again, that perfect pour I've showed a couple times now. We're gonna show it once more, just so you have an idea of the pour speed. Look at the pour speed. Look at how I'm filling the base. Now look, I'm starting the pour now. I'm starting the actual design. Look how I'm pouring smoothly that milk coming out of the pitcher. Think about the flow rate. And a good way to practice this is just with water in your pitcher. Work on your flow rate. Make sure you're not going too fast, you're not going too slow. You're in the sweet spot. Solid before we continue.
So Big Bruv Lance, listen to me. My milk, absolutely fire. My spout proximity is so good. My speed, come on. I've been working on pacing myself. We're Gucci to Gucci.
But here's the next thing. You're too confident. The arrogance is palpable and I want to humble you. Do not come into here and tell me that you have all these things checked out and now you're ready to draw a 7-headed dragon surfing on a kite. You're not doing that. You're going too complicated too quickly. Master the basics. Humble yourself. Even if you think you're doing 3 Rosettas in the same cup right now, don't do that. Stop doing that. We're done doing that. All right, we're gonna get that heart. We're gonna get that monk's head. We're gonna get that nice, controlled substance pour. This is what I don't want you to do.
I think I'm ready to do a Rosetta.
The amount of pours I see online that are like this infuriates me. And it's not because, listen, it's not because you're not good. It's not. It's because I can tell from this pour that you have not mastered your basics. You know how I can tell? The position of the pour. You have started way too deep in that cup because it's wrapping right here, which means you started past halfway. You don't do that. No. When you're starting a 1-drop design, you're starting right behind halfway and you're pushing forward and coming back. You would know that if you watched my Ultimate Guide to Latte Art. No one skips steps. I don't care. The prodigies of the 17th century are gone, all right? We don't have prodigies anymore. Okay, that's not true, we do. But you're not one. I'm not one. Let's humble ourselves. Also, I can tell by the erratic wiggles, which is so often, people see these lines and they want to skip to the lines. And so they, don't do that, all right? Don't do that. You're not so important that you have 40,000 vibration calls coming in all at once, and that's why you're doing that. It's not your phone, all right? It's because you have not been practicing controlled movements, rippling the milk side to side, letting the flow dictate that for you. So when I see something like this, I know that people are just trying to skip to the Rosetta because I get it. Rosetta is so much fun. It is. It's so beautiful too, and you can flow it on out, and you're just like, ah. Oh. But here's the thing, it's like a dance. You don't start dancing and go straight into something like this. You don't start dancing and go straight into something like this. No, you have to start a little more slowly, all right? We're gonna start with like the simple robot. You know, you wanna get it to where you're moving one body part at a time. You don't robot like this. Whenever you're doing the robot, you get in a position in one motion at a time, right? You don't want to move everything at once, okay? Same goes here. You master the basics and slowly build up. We'll do the blob heart. We get it symmetrical. We get it centered. We get the milk texture perfect, the spout, everything perfect. Then we go to a rippled heart and you slowly start to work on your ripples. Once you have the rippled heart down to where it's all wrapping all together looking gorgeous, then you can move to the Rosetta, because then all you got to do is when you're going forward on the heart, then you just keep that rippling motion backwards. That's all you got to do. So let's calm it down, calm it down, calm it down. Stop overcomplicating things. Here's a rippled heart for you goobs. Don't go to harder things until you are able to get something like this, where you have the lines wrapping to the middle, you're able to get it nice and centered, you're able to get the contrast without blowing out the crema. and you're good to go. Once you master that, then all a rosetta is ripple, 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 ripple. Then when you see it start coming to the middle, coalescing to the center, then you just ripple, 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 ripple backwards, and then you cut. Don't skip steps. Everything comes from the heart. Cheesy AF, I understand that, but once you get the heart down, that is the building block to everything else. All a rosetta is a heart with a sprout coming out. All right, so this final one is the idea of rotation and pushing. Some people just push. You cannot just push. It needs to be in concert with rotating the cup to absorb that flow of the push. All right, I'm gonna show you what happens when you're just pushing. This means that you're not tilting the cup enough because you have to rotate if your liquid is all the way at the lip of the cup. Your liquid's not at the edge, so you start here and you try to push the thing forward, and you see what happens there? You're trying to push it forward. This is actually better than what a lot I see, sorry. But whenever you're just pushing, you are elongating and narrowing out your design, and a lot of times you'll get a slug trail. All right, you get that nasty little slug wormy thing going down. Because as you're pushing, it's not able to absorb. You have to absorb the shape with the rotation of the cup. It should be like that liaison. You see how whenever you're pouring into the cup and it's rotating, all right? So what's happening is it has to absorb the flow for it to wrap. If you just force push it, then there's gonna be sludge following the side of the pitcher. As the foam is coming out and you're pushing, it's just gonna sludge down the side and you're gonna get this elongated kind of V-looking thing. We want a voluptuous with arms wide open. Now what it looks like to do it correctly, this same exact design is right here. We start here, and look, we're rotating as we push. You see that? We rotate as we push. See that? We rotate as we push that final one. This is the whole thing about it, is getting it all together. So what I like to recommend people doing is when they're first starting their hearts, to literally just like, I'm little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my spout, unless you're left-handed. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out. And look, you're gonna automatically rotate as you're pushing. Those are the 5 tips we need to really pay attention to. Make sure your milk is on fuego. Make sure that your spout proximity is close, but not eating. We don't want it to eat the latte. Make sure that your speed is on point. We're not in a Formula 1 racetrack, all right? We're here, slow and steady wins the race, but not too slow. We're not in slow motion. We're not like, no, we're not doing that, right? We don't want to overcomplicate things. And finally, we want to rotate in concert with pushing. Once you have all those things together, then you can start to advance. And then you'll get to pour something like this. Then you can start playing with silly stuff like swans. And you can do the Pegasus, and you can do the, I don't know, whatever you're wanting to do. There's so many designs out there now, I don't even know. Who knows, because I don't even really pour very often anymore. I just drink my coffee black. Now, with all these alternative milks, these plant-based beverages like hemp, rice, soy, oat, you want to make sure that your milk texture looks similar to that of milk. Now, each of them will need little different properties when steaming. There are some great tutorials already on YouTube. I know that Emily Bryant has done one, but regardless, these tips will still apply to that. You still need spout proximity. Proximity? What does that even mean? You still need good milk texture. You still need speed, flow control. You still need to not overcomplicate things, and you still need that rotation. We're here to be exhaustive and to help make sure that you have great free content online so that you can keep coming back to this and working on what you need to work on. But please make sure your basics and mechanics are down, because that is what's important. I am your host, Lance Hedrick. Thank you for coming by today. If you enjoyed this content, please consider leaving a like, a subscribe, maybe leaving a comment below. And if you don't, it's okay. I still love you anyway. But until next time, which may be another year until another latte or do, who really knows? I hope that you brew something tasty. And cheers.